in the last stream, we were working on setting up this new better boiler from the Better Boilers mod. This is the maximum size that you can make this boiler, and currently we're using it to power 10 hardened upgrade steam dynamos with the turbine conversion augment to allow us to turn all of that steam into currently a maximum of 3,000 redstone flux per tick. We're then using a good chunk of that power on turning cobblestone into lava, and then that lava into rich slag. That is the idea anyway, and it looks like between streams things have been chugging along quite nicely here. Right now we do have it set to round robin, and we do have some of that slag going into this induction smelter, which I think is a mistake. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the insert on this for the time being. The reason that's a mistake is that this is our general purpose line, meaning that it doesn't have a constant supply of resources going to it, and so eventually the slag just kind of backs up in here, and that's not particularly useful. We could kind of get around that by just putting more slag into the system, like having even more slag in here. That would fix the problem. Eventually, if we had, 4 stacks of slag, then there'd be enough to go around. But I think for the time being, we can just manually put some rich slag into this induction smelter anytime that we want to use it. The only thing that I've done really here between streams for this setup is add a cobblestone generator, something that I forgot to do at the end of the last stream. For now, we've just got the basic first tier of cobblestone generator. It does only produce 2 cobblestone per second, but this magma crucible takes a little while to burn 1 cobblestone, and so it turns out that that is actually more than enough to keep this whole system going. And other than that, I've kind of just left this all running between streams, and I'm happy to report that we are now slowly gaining iron, copper, and aluminum. So initially, it looked like we maybe weren't. It looked like things were going down faster than they were coming in, but I think now that all of the buffers are taken care of, we are starting to gain iron. At the lowest point, we hit like just under 1,000 iron, but you'll see now we're up at 1,260. Same's true over here, we had like 1,600, and now we're back up close to 2,000. And I think at the end of the last episode, we were on about 200 aluminum, and now we're up at near 700. So everything is on the up and up. And other than that, the only other change that I've made between streams is that I have upgraded all of our researchers with these speed 1 upgrades. For the first 2 here, it's completely fine. We are making enough power, and the LV connectors here are able to transfer enough power in to keep all of these going with the speed upgrades. Over here, of course, we are at 2.9 million RF still. We had 5 million at the end of the last episode, so it's kind of still working away. We do have 27 production research now, and of course, at the moment, this is not fully automated, so right now, it's not working because we don't have any redstone engineering blocks in there. Of course, we can rectify that by manually making some redstone engineering blocks, but the ideal solution here is obviously going to be to fully automate the production of this research. The trouble with that is that we don't have that much redstone, and unlike with copper and iron and aluminum, we can't multiply the amount of redstone that we get out of the ground. We can mine the redstone, and I think we have. I think if we check over here, we have probably fully drained this chunk of redstone dust, and let me check. We have indeed, and so we're going to have to move these drills to get more redstone, but what I want to work on today is I want to start working on deep mob learning. Deep mob learning is going to allow us to simulate the killing of certain mobs, and in doing so, it's going to allow us to automate the production of certain resources. For example, if we get a witch data model here, we are going to be able to finally fully automate the production of redstone so that we no longer have to rely on moving drills to new chunks over and over and over again to get that continued redstone. Once we have that unlimited redstone, we can then fully automate the production of the production research, aka the blue research, because we're going to have unlimited redstone to do that. Trying to do that right now, I think would just burn through all of our redstone very quickly, and it would make it much harder for us to craft stuff because a lot of the recipes that we need to craft do need redstone. And in fact, right now, we only have 165 redstone left, and so I think the very first thing that I'm going to do here is just quickly shimmy these drills back by 1 chunk. I'm going to assume that this chunk has some redstone in it. It totally does. So we'll shimmy that back, we'll get that redstone online, and then we will look at unlocking deep mob learning via the research that is all the way down here, and then we'll look at setting that up and automating that to try and automate some of the resources that we currently don't have, and hopefully also get some resources that we need to do further automation, like the lumium ingots here, which, as we've mentioned in previous episodes, are going to allow us to finally automate the production of wood. All right, and not too long later, we have our burner drills back online, producing redstone that's going all the way along. I probably should have just moved this rail to be longer at this point, because I think now the conveyor belt here is probably about as long as this rather short rail is. But anyway, for the time being, that is going to work just fine. And so back over here, we can go ahead and take some production research, some mechanics research, and some logistics research, and we should be able to combine all of that into this deep mob learning unlock. It does require that the logistics research be in the form of 16x research. That is not a problem. Boom. And so now that should unlock for us the ability to make both the deep mob learning simulation chamber and the loot fabricator. So in order to make a simulation chamber, what do we need? We need 4 aluminum, 4 modularium, and then 1 sooty casing. The sooty casing is made with steel, coal, and aluminum sheet metal. So the sheet metal requires aluminum plates. Aluminum plates I don't think we have. I'm pretty sure we're not making plates over here. We're making everything else, gears, wires, and rods, but we're not making any aluminum plates. That is completely fine. Let me bookmark the simulation chamber. I'm also going to bookmark the loot fabricator, and I'm also going to bookmark the blank data model, because we're going to need all of those to progress here. So the loot fabricator also requires a sooty casing, and it requires 4 fluxed Electrum as well. Do we have any fluxed Electrum hanging around in here? We do. We've only got 3 though. That's fine. We can make more if we drop some more redstone in the magma crucible. That's going to get us another fluxed Electrum. Only 1 is required here for us to get the loot fabricator. While we wait for that, let me get another engineer's hammer, maybe our 19th of the series so far. And then from there, let's get a couple of aluminum plates. I'm going to make quite a few of these here. We are going to need more than 1 simulation chamber, that's for sure. Like, we'll start with 1 here, but we're definitely going to need 2, potentially 3, and by the end of the pack, you know, potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or more simulation chambers to get everything automated. Right now, we don't have enough power to run all of them, but I think we should have enough power to run the 2 that we're going to need to potentially fully automate redstone. Once we have the aluminum plates, we can do something like this to get us some aluminum sheet metal, and from there, that should be basically everything to make the sooty casings that we need. Let's do 2 of those. We're just missing the block of coal. That is not a problem. We do have some coal in the system here, and we are also backing up on coal over by our coal coke setup. And so 1 and 2 sooty casings can then be crafted into 1 simulation chamber and 1 loot fabricator just as soon as we get a tiny bit more modularium, which we can of course do over here in our general use induction smelter with a little bit of iron and a little bit of redstone. We'll throw half a stack of both in, and then we'll just take 2 of those, I think it was, that we were missing to get the loot fabricator. Nice. So the way that this works is we can place down the loot fabricator and we can place down the simulation chamber. Inside of the simulation chamber, we need to insert a data model to begin the simulation. So to do that, we have to first craft a blank data model. This requires some steel, more modularium, stone, and polymer clay. The polymer clay is another alloy. This one is made with clay and diamond. So right now, we do have a couple of diamonds available in the system, but not a ton of them. And clay, we've got a fair bit of, and we can really make as much of this as we like because of the fact that it's just so easy to make. It requires the slag and the dirt. We've got a ton of slag and a ton of dirt, and of course infinite water. And so if we do this, we are going to get a little bit of polymer clay here. I don't want to spend all of my diamonds just yet, so I'm going to hold off on turning them all into polymer clay, but that is going to get us a blank data model. Now that we have the blank data model here, there are research options down here to unlock all of the different data models. However, they are a little bit expensive. Each and every one of these requires like a lot of production research and a fair bit of mechanics and logistics research. And it turns out, up at the top here, it did mention in the auto workbench that the auto workbench can craft recipes that we've not yet unlocked. So right here it says first, it doesn't use power. Second, it will craft unlockable recipes. So the idea here is that if we get another auto workbench, which is just going to require 1 more crafting table, we can then use this to unlock recipes that we haven't yet unlocked. I say unlock them, we can use them to craft recipes we haven't unlocked. For example, the blank data model here, if you just put it in these slots, you can kind of keep going until you find the one you're after. And so the first one that I think we are going to be after is the shulker data model, because the shulker data model here is going to allow us to automate the production of lapis, prismarine, diamonds, emeralds, and nether quartz. And of course, we need that diamond automation if we're going to automate polymer clay, because you do need an unlimited amount of polymer clay in order to run the simulation chamber. So if we can try and find the shulker, which I think was here, we can then just put this in, and it is going to take a few seconds, but this will craft for us the shulker data model without having to pay the tax of 32 production research, 64 mechanics research, and 16 8x logistics research, which I think is a substantially better deal. Over here, we can now put in the data model. This one does use 250 redstone flux per tick. That is completely fine because we do have a fair amount of redstone flux per tick being generated over here. For the time being, I'm going to somewhat jankily do something like this. This is not the final resting place for the cables or the loop fabricators, but I just want to demonstrate how this works. Now, if we put in the polymer clay here, it says cannot begin simulation, system energy levels critical. But that should be fine. The power's going up. We're getting power from our dynamos. And essentially, this is going to slowly but surely reach 100%, and it'll use one polymer clay in doing so. Now you'll see that right here it says pristine procurement failed. Basically, every time that this completes a cycle, it will either produce a pristine matter or it won't. And right now you'll see the pristine chance is 10%. As we move forward here, the amount of data collected, where it says data collected there, is going to go up. At the minute, we're at the basic tier, which means we only have a 10% chance to get pristine matter. Once we've done this 48 times, so once it's gone through this 48 times and done 48 cycles of 100%, then we'll move up to the next tier, which I think is basic, advanced, superior, and then self-aware. And as we move up, the chance goes up with it. Basic is 10%, advanced is 25%, superior is 50%, and then self-aware is 75%. So basically, over time, this shulker data model just gets better and better to the point where eventually it's producing a pristine matter 75% of the time. The reason that that pristine matter is valuable is that that's what we use to produce loot. And so you can see here that you can take that pristine matter, and if you put it in the loop fabricator, you can then turn it into any one of these. You don't get all of them, but you can, for example, turn one pristine matter into 4 diamonds, or you can turn one pristine matter into 18 shulker shells, or 4 emeralds, or 4 lapis, or 16 nether quartz, or 32 prismarine. For example, over here, we can do something like this. We can select diamonds, and then if we go ahead and connect this to power, 1, 2, 3, and 4, it should then transform the pristine matter into diamonds. So, in order to get this automated, we need to automate the production of polymer clay. And the shulker data model is a key component of that because obviously the polymer clay here needs diamonds. So basically, we need to maybe make another induction smelter so we can automate this part of the craft, kind of the final stage of it. We need to automate the sending of pristine matter from the simulation chamber to the loot fabricator. You'll see that by default, unless you click to remove, it will auto craft diamonds every time unless you change it. So once you've set the loot fabricator, it'll just keep doing the same thing unless you say, no, do lapis instead. But we can send the pristine matter automatically from here using item conduits to the loot fabricator, and then we want to send the diamonds from the loot fabricator to a induction smelter to make polymer clay. We can then use that polymer clay not only to make more diamonds, but we can also then use it for all of the other data models as well. For example, I think the next data model that we're probably going to want to get is the witch data model, because then we can do the same thing that we're doing here for diamonds, but with redstone, and then we can use that redstone to produce research. That is the plan, and that's how we're going to get a lot of these items that we currently don't have going forward. It's also how we get the next tier of research as well. So we have to get an Enderman data model, a witch data model, and a gas data model fully automated before we can start looking at automating the tier 4 research, aka the utility research. So step 1 here, like I said, is going to be to get another induction smelter. That part should be pretty straightforward. We need another redstone reception coil, another invar gear, and another machine frame. Fantastic. That gets us another induction smelter, and that's kind of the easy part done. Then we need to automate the production of clay. Now, at the minute, we're using this recipe right here with slag, dirt, and water. And while this is automatable, it's not going to be great for us in the long run because we don't have automated dirt. We do have a lot of dirt. We've got over 2,000 in the system, and of course we could just go and mine a ton of it. But for a fully automated system that is going to last forever, we probably want a better system that requires no manual intervention. And for that, the quest book recommends the bottling machine. That's this one right here from Immersive Engineering. With this, we can pump water directly into the bottling machine, give it some power, and then that's going to allow us to turn sand directly into clay. And sand, of course, is makeable automatically using this little setup that we have over here. In fact, we already have sand fully automated, and we've got 2,048 of it ready and raring to go. The Twitch chat does make a good point here, actually, in that while we could make the bottling machine from Immersive Engineering, and I'm tempted to because it looks cool, the fluid transposer is probably the better way to go. It can do the same craft here, but it's just much smaller, right? It takes up a 1 block space and is much easier to move around and configure the inputs and outputs for. And so if we just get another machine frame here, another bucket, and one more of those redstone reception coils, we then can go ahead and get a fluid transposer, at which point we now have the ability to turn sand into clay kind of straight away. So I do think, again, for the time being, I'm going to set this up over here. So what we'll do is we'll get another diamond pickaxe because ours did just break, and I do want to do that before we completely run out of diamonds here. And I'm going to move this this conduit, because of course we do want to make sure this one's underground, and of course we also want to make sure a lot of this stuff gets moved as well. So we're going to have the simulation chamber, and we're going to kind of pump that down directly into the loot fabricator. So I might put the loot fabricator, let's say, right about here, and then I think we'll have like an item conduit like this, and we'll have the simulation chamber above that as well. So we can pump directly down from the simulation chamber into the loot fabricator. We're then going to take the diamonds out of the loot fabricator, which we might be able to do like this, although if I'm not mistaken, I think we might have to extract from the bottom. We'll figure that out in a second. Then we want to put down our induction smelter. That's going to go down right about here. This is going to receive the diamonds from the loot fabricator. So we'll set that to insert, and we'll make sure that this can receive from the right and the left. Because on the right here, we're going to have our fluid transposer. For the fluid transposer here, what we should be able to do is just grab a couple more of the fluid conduits, those being the medium ones here. And do I have any of these in the system? I do. And then we should just be able to run an underground conduit from, let's say, the bottom of this aqueous accumulator down around and into this fluid transposer. And again, we've lost our hatchet there, so I will go ahead and make another diamond axe. We don't have to use diamond tools, but they are much higher in durability than the iron one, so I think it's worth investing in. All right, once the fluid cable is down, this is now receiving water. Fantastic. Then we need to get the sand over here. So we could look at recreating a setup using this cobblestone generator. However, we are producing a lot of sand over in the other area, and we're not currently using it. And so what I think I might do, we already do have the main item conduit right here. And so what I'm thinking is, if we just run the item conduit along and up like this, I might set this to insert on, say, the yellow line. Yellow for sand. And then on the other end, I might just go and run the main kind of conduit line around to that sand drawer so that we can just use the sand we're already making in this setup. We do need some more steel. Thankfully, steel production is back online, and so over here we should have loads. Again, this drawer is not being extracted from, so that is just personal use steel for us to make conduits with. And now I just need to find where this line is, like where the nearest point is, and then over here we're just going to place down an item conduit on the bottom of this, like so. Shift left click with the Etta wrench, extract on the yellow channel, always active, and once we connect that up, it should start sending sand from here all the way around to the fluid transposer over there. And there we go. The sand is now being sent over, and we've got a new line in the ground over there. Fantastic. So this does need power, of course, as well. Again, thankfully, we can run these conduits together. So let's just, I guess, get rid of these horrible ones that we put down earlier, and instead let's run them underground through the dirt here and up into both the induction smelter and the fluid transposer. Nice. So now that those are online, we should be making clay here. We are indeed. And we can output that to the left. That's in here. Fantastic. And then here, we just need to put our data model back in. We do need to go and like actually make some more polymer clay. For that, I guess we can put the diamonds in here, right? That's going to start making that polymer clay for us. And then we want to extract that polymer clay and send it up into the simulation chamber. So my question really is, can I do this? Does this work? If I set the top here to output, and then I set the right-hand side here to insert, and always active, does that send the polymer clay over? It would appear the answer is no. Again, I think that the machines from Deep Mob Learning are a little picky sometimes, in that I think it needs to go into the top of this machine for it to work. So if I were to do this and then run this over like that. I think now, if we were to get our Yeta wrench, because it's kind of out of the way, shift left click, insert like that, it should go in. It does. Nice, cool. And so now that just needs power. Again, that's a little funky. I guess we're gonna have to just like run it up the bank. The way I've set this up is a little awkward. We could have put these on the floor, but again, if I'd have put this down on the floor, I would have still had to pipe up and into the top of this machine, so it's always going to be awkward nonetheless. But I think we're basically going to do something like that to get the power up into both of those, and then we'll just run this underground to the nearest connection point. Alright, so obviously I need to put some more flooring back down, but all of this is connected up, and so up here we should be producing pristine matter. That pristine matter should then, as it's produced, get sent down into the loot fabricator. If we set that to insert, and of course make sure you're set to extract always active, and I'm hopeful that this works. I'm hopeful I can extract out of the side of this. Let's find out. We're going to turn that into diamonds, and the diamonds are not going to get extracted, annoyingly. And so, yeah, it looks like we are going to have to change this. Also, in here, right now I've got these both set to blue, and so you'll see we're making far too much clay. Thankfully, you can split these out. We can make one of them purple and one of them green, and that separates out these sides here so that we don't end up filling both of them with clay. So, yeah, I think over here, I once again just need to move this item conduit. Again, a little finicky, but if we quickly make another batch of those, I think we just extract from the bottom like this, and then go around and into the side like that. I guess we could go into the bottom here, actually, just to make it look a little bit neater. If we get rid of this, we could then have the bottom be green, like that. Get rid of this, and then have this here set to extract, always active, and you set to insert, like that. And that should send the diamonds around. It does. Nice. Okay, I think with that, we basically have diamonds automated, and we've also automated the production of polymer clay. We are going to produce, hopefully, an excess of polymer clay here. Definitely, I think, an excess of polymer clay. Right now, I guess it takes approximately 10 polymer clay to make 1 pristine matter. 1 pristine matter makes 4 diamonds, and 4 diamonds makes 16 polymer clay. So even at the least efficient tier, which is basic, we are still making an excess of polymer clay, and of course, as we go further on and as we get to higher tiers, advanced, superior, and self-aware, it's only going to get more and more efficient. So real quick, let me grab a conduit facade just so that I can cover up this item conduit that we've placed down here, and I would also love to cover up the other conduit that I've placed down here. What I think we will do is get 2 more framed drawers here. I need 1 framed drawer for polymer clay, because we don't necessarily have to back up on it, but I think backing up on it is going to be a good idea, and it's going to make it easier to distribute to other simulation chambers going forward. And the second framed drawer is going to be for this stuff, the extraterrestrial matter. If I put the drawer here, and ideally have that facing forward, the drawer's going to be a bit finicky. You usually have to put a block down underneath and then do this to get them to face towards you. If we do that, we can set this to insert, and of course drop in the extraterrestrial matter. That should start pulling it out of here. It does. As per usual, I want to lock that to make sure that the pristine matter never ends up in there. And for now, what we'll also do is get a void upgrade and drop that in just to make sure that eventually when we fully back up this drawer on extraterrestrial matter, that it doesn't clog up the entire system. The extraterrestrial matter does have its uses. You can craft, for example, apples into chorus fruit. You can craft nether stars without having to fight the wither if you get wither skeleton skulls and soul sand. There's also a few other recipes like the slime and the endstone here, but for the time being, I don't really think we have too much of a use for it. You can also shift right click to eat it, and you do get experience for that. But again, I don't really think that we have too much of a use for experience in this pack at this moment in time. And so let's, I guess, get rid of this invisible cable. I'm not quite sure why it was invisible, but I'm going to put the drawer for polymer clay right there, like that. So we'll set that to insert, like that. Make sure that's locked, and then up at the top here, we will go ahead and set that to extract always active. I might put a downgrade in that, if I can make one before the before the drawer fills up. I think it's probably already got more than 64 in it. Can I put a downgrade in here? I can. Nice. Okay, cool. The reason for that is just that that's going to allow us to start backing up on diamonds, which I think is also going to be useful for us, because going forward, it means if I want diamonds, I can come over here and just grab some out of this, and eventually, once this does get up to like self-aware, we could potentially set up a 3rd storage drawer for all of the excess diamonds, and then, you know, hook that up with our simple storage network to our system, so we have access to those diamonds for the future. Chat is right in that here, this item conduit that we placed down doesn't want to be connected there. I don't know how big of a deal it is, but this item pipe is the mainline pipe that's bringing the sand from over there over to here, and then this pipe is connected from here to here, so we don't want those two to connect. That probably wasn't going to be a huge deal, but could have broken something if we left it unchecked. So now that that is taken care of, and now that we have automated polymer clay, let's see if we can't take a couple of those and see if we can't get the witch data model. So another data model, again, is not going to be tricky, and just like we did before, over here we can just try and figure out where the witch data model lies. It is in the top left, fantastic. And while we wait for that, let's go ahead and craft up yet another simulation chamber and yet another loot fabricator. And once we have the simulation chamber and the loot fabricator, I think we're good to go. So I'm basically thinking here that we kind of just want to set up the same system again. I might have to, like, this is where it gets a little bit awkward just due to the way that things look. I guess we could do it here. I could do this and this. I was going to do the same thing, but here and put another cable in front. But I guess if we put it here, we can then put the witch data model in like that. We can then run another item conduit along from the top here over to here. I don't think it's strictly necessary, but we can set this to round robin as well, just to make sure these get an even amount of polymer clay. Although I don't even know if we want that, to be honest. I think we probably actively want it to not be round robin. I think we want it to go to the closest one first, which is this one, because in a situation where we don't have enough polymer clay, we want to prioritize the making of diamonds so that we can make more polymer clay, right? So I think this is fine. Over here, make sure this is set to insert, like so, and that should begin doing the same thing that this is doing with the shulker data model, but with the witch data model. We're then, of course, going to do the same thing here, set this to extract, always active, and down here to insert, and then it's just a case of taking the redstone and putting it somewhere, right? Because now what we can do is just get another framed draw, texture that to look like marble, and then the question is where we want to put this framed draw, because ideally we want to be able to connect to the redstone up to our simple storage network, and we also want to connect it up to the main line so we can start sending it out over to this auto workbench to automate the crafting of the redstone engineering blocks. I think for now, though, I think putting it over here, it might be fine. We've either got to run an item conduit from here kind of all the way over to the front, or we've got to do the storage cable from here all the way back to the back. And I think the storage cable is cheaper, so I'm going to put the draw here, as awkward as it is. Again, a lot of this is probably going to have to be moved as we unlock higher tiers of ore processing, and we're going to need more space for deep mob learning in the future eventually. But again, just for the time being, if I were to do something like this, this, and this, using the old Yeta wrench, we can set you to extract, always active, and we can set you to insert. And then over here, we're going to make redstone, and you do get 16 redstone at a time, which is very nice indeed. Do we have what it takes to make another conduit facade? We should do, because we now have clay automated, so we can really make as many of those as we like. We can just steal the clay from here and craft it down should we need it. Let's get some treated wood. Boom, and then let's cover that up like so. And yeah, we have redstone automated. Again, right now, it's not going to be super fast. And again, we do need to get another draw, because this setup produces a different kind of matter. This one produces overworldian matter as opposed to extraterrestrial matter. But again, going forward, as we run through more and more simulations with the witch data model, we're going to get more and more redstone via the pristine matter. Again, over here, I'm going to do this. And again, it's can I rotate this with the Yeta wrench? I can. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So here, insert, and we want to make sure that it doesn't get the pristine matter. We want to make sure it gets the overworldian matter, which again has other uses. You can use this to make all kinds of stuff. Gunpowder, spider eyes, cobwebs, arrows. Bones could be interesting, but you don't need bone meal for it, so it's kind of a chicken and egg problem there. I'm not actually quite sure how we get the initial bone meal to make the bones and then work from there, so I'm not quite sure if that is particularly useful, but there are a couple of recipes here that we can make, and it does also unlock grass blocks for us as well, which is interesting because it would allow us to use conduit facades to cover up conduits like and make them look like grass blocks. A small benefit, but a benefit nonetheless. And so now I think what I am probably going to do is get a couple more item conduits and see about connecting this redstone up over here. So we've got this auto workbench, and I'm going to have to do a little bit of excavating here to find out where everything is, but I want to run a new item conduit from the main line to this auto workbench, and we're probably going to need to do some funky stuff here because we need to send quite a few items to this workbench. We need to send iron, copper, and redstone, and unfortunately we can't set the item conduit to insert on all 3 channels. And so I think what we might have to do is grab one of these 2x2 drawers and kind of use that as an intermediary. This does require a fair bit of iron and redstone. So what I might do is I might put this down like that. Set you to insert. Set you over here to extract always active. In here, this is already full up with dirt. That's perfect. We're going to go ahead and lock this. We're, of course, going to get a storage downgrade. For that, we need to make some more flint. I'm going to make as much flint as we can because we've got basically infinite gravel. It saves us having to make it in the future. Sticks, we also have an infinite amount, but it's easy enough to craft them. Boom, and boom. We'll put that in here, and then we're going to go ahead and lock this to iron, redstone, and copper. And we'll just do 1 draw for each one. So iron, redstone, and copper. Nice. And then from there, what we can do is we can kind of dig around this, and we can run from here all the way over like this. And the benefit of the draw is that we can have this insert on the orange channel for the copper. We can then do something like this and like this. And we can have the bottom one insert on the light gray channel. That's going to bring the iron in. And then this one here is going to insert on whatever channel we choose for redstone, which I assume is going to be red here. We are already using red, but I'm pretty sure that's on a separate line, right? We're using red for our slag, our rich slag, but that is not connected to the main line. That only goes from here to these machines and back. It doesn't connect to the main line. And so over here, we do already have a mainline connection thanks to our sand hookup, which is right here. And so if we just run that along to here, we should be able to make this work. So yeah, I think that's fine. Let me do... Right now, this is set to insert on green, which is fine because it can't insert on anything else anyway. The only trouble we would run into is if we insert on green somewhere else. Just to keep it separate, I'm going to do this. It's going to look worse, but work better. And then if we just right-click here, not shift right-click, that's going to allow us to then run that and connect that to the actual main line, like that. And then if we set this to extract on red, always active, that should start pulling redstone out of there and sending it round and over. Let me cover this up. Boom, boom. Round and over to that drawer beneath, which should then pump up and into this drawer here. And it does. Nice. So now this is actually automatically making those redstone engineering blocks. Fantastic. And then the only other thing that we really need to do, I guess, is kind of pull some of the redstone out of this drawer, up, around, and into the magma crucible. And in fact, we can just do that via the main line. If we just do this and this, we can set U to insert on red, and that should start getting redstone from that same drawer that everything else is getting redstone from, as long as this is set to input on the bottom, like that. And that should start making the destabilized redstone, which then should make its way over into the fluid transposer. It's possible we might have used all of our redstone backing up this, but again, once this backs up, this should start getting the redstone it needs. And then at that point, the only thing that we haven't done here for automation purposes is the Electrum. We need to get Electrum into this fluid transposer to automate the production of fluxed Electrum. And that's where things get a little bit trickier because we don't have gold or silver automation lines yet. We've got iron, we've got copper, we've got aluminum, and again, all of these are going up. You know what? Iron's going down, aluminum's going up, and copper is almost at its max. Not quite sure why iron's going down. Again, it might just be being used faster. We can, of course, make more hardened upgrade kits, and so we can kind of patch fix this. That's not what I want to do. I want to get another bronze gear. And are we out of redstone? We are completely out of redstone, which is not ideal. I do think we should have more over here, thanks to the new drills we set up at the start of the episode. We do indeed fantastic. And of course, in an ideal world here, I'm going to put that redstone into this drawer over here, because we're going to want to hook this up to our simple storage network so we have access to all of the redstone in there. But let's see, can we make one more of these? We can. And in doing that, if I do this, I'm pretty sure that that is going to mitigate our current loss of iron and should hopefully flip it so that we're gaining a backlog of iron. And yeah, like I was saying, that the trouble with Electrum is that there aren't many chunks that have a lot of gold and silver in them. This chunk right here has 198 gold. This one, I think we've already tapped a little bit. Over here, we got nothing. I also don't think that any of the chunks have both gold and silver in them. And any of the chunks that do have gold or silver in them tend to have, like, at most 200 gold or silver. Like, this one's been untapped and it's got 167. That's not a particularly large amount of gold. It's not ideal. 197 there, also not ideal. Obviously, with 10x processing, that is going to get us to, 2,000 gold or 2,000 silver from 200 ore, which is good. And you do get 2 Electrum for every 1 gold and 1 silver. So if you had 200 gold ore and 200 silver ore, that would be 2,000 gold and 2,000 silver, which would be 4,000 Electrum. And I guess 4,000 Electrum is equivalent to 4,000 production research, so I guess it's kind of fine. It's just a little awkward, is all. What I might do, though, is potentially repurpose this as potentially a multi-gold and silver production line. If we go and we get another draw, this time if we get a 1x2 draw, which is going to require more chests, that is completely fine, and is going to require more sticks, which I'm actually going to go ahead and steal from our sticks draw, assuming that we're actually backing up on sticks, which we are. Fantastic. Let's take those, and let's do this. 2 of these is all we need. We only need 1, and we can do this and this. Essentially what I'm thinking is that for the time being, it's probably not massively worth taking like an electric drill and placing it down in the gold or silver area, just because there's not that much gold and silver in those areas. Instead, what I think we can do is we can put gold in like this, and then we can put silver in like this. We can then take whatever gold and silver we have and place them into the induction smelter here. So let me see about reconnecting this up to the slag line, as it were, and then we'll do this. We'll get potentially... I guess we could take the other drawer, actually, that we just didn't color in. Like this. And again, for the time being, if we just put that down over here, we can then take any gold and silver ore that we have. For example, over here, we've got a ton of gold ore ready to go. We can take that gold ore, place it into the new gold and silver drawer, which is this one here. Make sure that's locked, of course, and I'm pretty sure we do have silver ore in the system. We've got a little bit we could probably do with finding a new spot with some silver in it, but if we do this, and then of course set this to auto input, that's going to start pulling the silver and gold in, processing it down, and sending it to here. We can then get another one of these storage link cables, like that, and boom. And then from there, we want to make sure that's locked as well, of course. From there, we can then set up another extraction line, right? We can hook this up to the main line, and I think what we're going to want to do is make yet another induction smelter, put that induction smelter down over here. Let me quickly see if we don't have what it takes to make that induction smelter. It's possible we might not have what it takes to make another machine frame here. Yeah, but the only thing we're missing is actually another machine casing, which is super easy because we have the modularium. Boom, and boom. Fantastic. That induction smelter is going to have to pump into the fluid transposer here. So for that, we're going to want to go back down and put it down like here. The only trouble with this is that we need to... First of all, I think we need to disconnect that, even though I don't think it's going to be a problem. Also, we'll disconnect this. The trouble with this is power, actually. We need to get power over to this guy, and getting it there when all of our wiring is above ground is going to be a little tricky. But essentially, my thought process here is that if we get another line on the item conduit, we can then just take the gold and silver from that drawer and send it automatically around to be turned into Electrum, and at that point, we've kind of fully automated the production research. Okay, so a little bit of time later, and I'm thinking it's probably going to be a better idea to have the induction smelter over here and then send the Electrum over, as opposed to trying to send the gold and silver over and then trying to power the induction smelter underground. And so what I'm thinking is that I might change this. I might do this and this and this, where we extract from the redstone furnace and then we insert into these 2 drawers for the gold and silver. My thought process here, because we've obviously just put this down and now I'm changing it, is that going forward, if we need either gold or silver independently, I think this is going to make it life easier because we can give each drawer its own item conduit and therefore kind of its own connection to the main item conduit line, right? So we'll do this, we'll lock both of these. It's also going to make this a little bit easier here because now what we can do is we can put down the induction smelter, I think kind of just right about here. because now we can also set this to extract, let's say, on the brown line, and you can also extract on the brown line. You know what, let's make it yellow just for the sake of thematics here. We'll make that yellow as well. That's going to extract, and then in here, I guess, oh no, I think we're still going to have to somewhat awkwardly move this, because we need to actually extract on different colors, because we need silver to go to one place and gold to go to a different input. Otherwise, much like we saw earlier with the polymer clay, it's possible we just have gold filling in both slots, which is not what we want. So what I think we'll do is maybe dig down a little bit further here to give us some space to work with. And then if we move this guy down to, let's say, here, we could then potentially have one item go in on one side and one go in on the other, although it's probably going to be easier if we just have one going on the top and then one going on the side, like that. So we'll disconnect this, we'll set, let's say, the top to insert on yellow, in this case it's gold, and then on the left side here, we're going to say insert on light blue, which in this case is silver. We'll make sure the top is set to either green or purple, and then we'll set the left to also either green or purple, the opposite of whatever the top is, and then always active and always active. That should start making Electrum. And then from there, what we can now finally do is if we go ahead and find our main line, which is somewhere over here. We're going to have to go under this cable as well, which is fine. We can now make even more item conduits. And then run those across, ideally, across like that, down, around, up, and into here, like this. This one we will set to extract on... Yellow's already taken. Everything that's kind of Electrum adjacent is also already taken. So I think we're going to go with magenta as our Electrum color. Here we'll set this side to output, like that, and... Cool, so I think I connected that correctly. Let me check though. I did indeed, fantastic. And so now back all the way over here, we just need to go ahead and set this cable here, ideally to connect to the cable next to it. Not quite sure why that didn't connect. If I try that again, like this. Let me try with the Yeta wrench maybe, like that. And then we'll set you to insert on the magenta channel, like this. Insert from the bottom. That should start to receive Electrum if everything is set up correctly, which apparently it is not. Let me go and quickly see if I can't find the problem. Oh, of course, we have to set that to always active. There we go. And there we go. The Electrum is being moved around. So a little bit of a janky setup, that is for sure, but a setup that I think works pretty well. So now we have silver and gold being made. Of course, as the ores get processed here. This is a problem. Is that a problem we're running into elsewhere? It's not. Oh, I see. I need to turn the flux lock back on, like this. So with that flux slot locked, that should no longer allow any of the gold or silver ore to go into that first slot, which is perfect. So, I think, chat, that we are pretty much good to go here. Again, it's not fully automated, because we don't, of course, have gold and silver coming in like we do with the copper, the iron, and the Electrum. But the good news is that we need a lot more of all of those than we do Electrum. We don't really need that much Electrum. And so, yeah. Of course, it's going to require that we keep moving drills around to get more gold and more silver, and we keep filling this up here, but it's working, which is good. We could do with setting up like maybe another general purpose line for stuff like nickel and tin and whatnot and lead as we go forward. Maybe that's what we'll use this space here for. But I think now, finally, we fully have the production research automated. The only thing we don't have is power. And you'll see that now we are kind of down to our last dregs of power here. We have managed to get 27 more production research, which is pretty good. It's going to allow us to push forward with some more research in the next episode. But I think next time, chat, we're going to have to come back and figure out the power situation on this research. And I guess we can also start to look at expanding these out and trying to make even more research on getting even more of these researchers down for all three of the tiers, so we can start getting more of all of the different kinds of research and pushing forward from there. And yeah, once we've kind of got that figured out, we can start working on this utility research. I should have ticked this quest because there are a few quests that we could have completed, I guess. But there are a couple of things, right? We can hopefully start working towards utility research by getting Enderium, Signalum, and Lumium ingots. That is what you need to make the utility research. And then tree farming is also not too far away once we get the gas data model automated. And unlimited ores is also possible if we get the thermal elemental data model as well. The only thing stopping us, I think, from doing more deep mob learning is power, because each one of these machines uses 250 RF per tick. So here, these 4, if they're all fully running all the time, which they're not because the loot fabricator only works every now and again, but in total they could use 1,000 redstone flux per tick, and combined with the 2,000 RF that we're using for ore processing, that is going to start to put a strain on our power production. We're doing fine at the minute. You know, these are still backing up on juice, or they still have a bit of backup on juice. And so for now, things are doing all right, but we might have to look at unlocking some further research like the thermal upgrade kits and like the infinity high pressure pipes here to allow us to squeeze up to 10,000 RF out of this boiler to expand out our deep mob learning setup, get some automated ores, get to the next tier of research, get that automated tree farm up and running, and of course push forward ever further in the pack. But those are all problems for future Isaac. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Feed the Factory there.